Hi. Hello, everyone. Really sorry for being late. It was like a technical problem. So, today we'll be discussing preventing violent extremism through heritage and culture. But first of all, we need to identify a lot of things. Sorry for the noise. So, first, I'm going to present myself and all that kind of things, you know. So I'll be starting in right now, as you can see. Sorry for being late again. So my name is Melek. I'm 20 years old, and I'm majoring in food management and biotechnology in the Faculty of Science of SFEX, and absolutely am a program ambassador this year with Africa Matters initiative through like an ambassadors program that was launched last March. And I got the opportunity to be a program ambassador and to promote and advocating youth participation in civic society and everything. So today I'll be discussing, as we told, preventing violent extremism through culture and heritage. But we need to know a lot of things about it because it's become a very, 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 very serious topic to talk about, since the word is being really, really affected by it, mainly violent extremism, as you can see through like groups like ISIS, which are political projects, religious projects as well, and it's absolutely affecting our youth, and it's recruiting them to be a part of this horrible projects. So as a person, I'm doing my best to gather more information because I'm really interested in this topic and pursuing it in my next career plans. And so I said, why not to discuss such a debatable topic with youth and to exchange ideas and feedbacks about it. And yeah, that's it. So feel free to ask me any question you want, and I'm here to answer and to, most importantly, to learn from you. So we will start right now. Like, first of all, I'm going to get a few questions from Africa Matters team, and I will do my best to answer them based on my knowledge and the research I did and everything. And we will figure out the solution later on all together. Okay? Thank you. So basically, Africa Matters asked me the very first question, which is, what is violent extremism, and what makes it different from radicalization or like social, revolutions or something. But before sharing the definition of violent extremism, let's explore the dynamics or the roots of the concept itself, because it seems really, really different to see that kind of this. It's not a phenomenon, let's keep it clear. It's not a phenomenon, it's something actually happening, and it's going to continue happening if we don't find, urgent solutions. So we will start by exploring the dynamics together and everything. So because identity here, so sorry, but it's my very first time like doing a live and discussing such topic, so I'm a little bit panicking or something, but it's fine. So first of all, violent extremism cannot be led by one person. It's going to be led by an organization that has some, let's say, strategies, and one of the basic or fundamental strategies that it's following it is absolutely identity, because identity for them is central and important, because they see the identity is different, and they want to learn from the people, because they want to learn more from people. How they want to know that this country, what makes it different from other people, what is the identity of this country, and how can we affect this identity. So violent extremism organizations typically explore the core identity of groups in various ways and make a specific marker of identity as the single defining feature of an individual, and they welcome individuals only if they are considering one of their own, and then construct and demarcate these people and this group dynamics. Later on, I see it's basically a categorization and collective representations of the others. So this is their strategy. They identify the people they want, and then they make them as their own, and then they will say, okay, these are the others. We don't need them. They are harmful for us, so we need to diminish them, okay? This is basically the first thing that violent extremism organizations do. I believe so, after many research and everything. So then they tried to build or to create a culture with these people that they recruited or they gathered. And this culture is based on hate and disrespect and intolerance, of course. That's how they do it first. But also we have to highlight that they undertake a mode of state building based on partly on a question for legitimacy, and partly on fear, because some people, so here let's say that people sometimes join violent extremism organization because they're fearing it. So instead of being killed, let me join them so I won't be killed anyways, so, or mainly extreme brutality, it's happening as well. So the argument here is laid forward will emphasize violent extremism, and partly as a political project in here, in which states failure, the collapse of central government authority, and the hardening of identity boundaries and constitution of opportunities for violent extremism opportunities. So also somehow the government is a part of this, because instead of protecting the people and asking them to not feel the fear or something, they just let them go, and so people will feel disrupted, and then they just join these organizations. So also we should not forget, and we should surely highlight, that gender dynamics and social norms play a large role in not only the recruitment methods, but also in the way violent extremism discuss and dealt with international communities. So for an example, ISIS, they tried their best to gather women's at the maximum to be a part of it. So they're using, okay, we need the concept of versions to show that pure women are a part of ISIS, so they're playing that kind of role too. So here, after all these methods and after all these things, I believe that violent extremism is a type of mobilization, let's say, that aims to elevate the status of one group, absolutely, while excluding or dominating its other based on markers such as gender, religion, culture, ethnicity, or whatever. in doing so, violent extremism organizations tend to destroy existing political and cultural institutions and, supplant them with an alternative governance. For at least for them, they believe it's alternative thing. Structure that work accordingly to principles of, intolerant ideology, hate, all the kind of negative adjectives, negative things you can like absolutely have. You will find it there with these organizations. And so it's not a phenomenon, as we can say. It's not a phenomenon because it's not just like happening and then it's shut it down. No, it's continuing and it's going like that way, and it won't be, denied. So we have to keep that in mind. It's not a phenomenon. It's something real, and it could be happening once a group of people like is gathered and they have such a hateful concept in their minds, or such a non-satisfaction of their own government or something. So they try to gather and they make a strategy, and then they just boom, they make it. This is based on my informations. Like, I did my best to talk to people who are like in the field of like, culture and heritage, and experts mainly in like museums and that kind of thing, so they can tell us how these people think. So yeah, this is the definition of violent extremism. The second question, actually, the Africa Matters team asked me to know what is the difference between violent extremism and radicalization. And I believe that radicalization is way different from violent extremism, because radicalization is a process of adopting, changing, or let's say strengthening a set of ideas that are outside or in the position to some of society's mainstream ideas, norms. And radicalization is not guaranteed to manifest in a violent way. That's the positive part of it. So we can have radicalization, which is non-violent, and they have their own set of ideas and they want to implement it, I don't know, through campaigns or something like that. It's quite positive for me, at least. And maybe because many individuals and groups framed as radical have been devotedly non-violent, and that's quite nice. So we can see that these people want to implement their ideas in the society because it's important for them to be implemented, but not in a violent way. For an example here, like last night I tried to understand more the radicalization in a non-violent way, and it turns out that we have a very similar example in our lives that it's happening, and it's, let's say, somehow non-violent. For an example, the students' movements back in the 60s and 70s in Tunisia or in America or wherever, students' movements were just trying to implement the correct definition of such concepts, like, freedom, equal rights, or something like that. So they're radical at some point, but they're not violent. They just like make panels, like they launch events that are talking about human rights, for an example, or like a specific topic they want to talk about, but in a non-violent way. That's really impressive to know. So here also I had like a question, and I want people really to answer me in this. But don't you believe somehow that when the government commits violent acts against people, then we should not be surprised if people commit violent acts to prevent the government of committing violent acts as well, you know. So this question actually been on my mind lately, on and on and on, because I really want to know I really want to know like an answer from people. I asked this question to a lot of people and just they were like, I don't know. But this question is going on my mind on and on and on. It's been a week right now and I'm trying to answer it. And maybe this is the right opportunity like to discuss it with you and with the people who are watching. So feel free to just like give me an example or something because I need to have an answer on that. So I will repeat my question. So if the government commits violent acts against people, then we should not be surprised, or if the people commits violent acts as well, to prevent the government of committing these violent acts against the people, or we just be like, oh, the government deserves that. So I really don't know what's the answer for that, but And then I had another question from Africa Matters team, which is education versus heritage and culture. Which one to prioritize? But I highly, highly, highly believe that none of them is going to be like the priority, because both of them are, they complete each other's. Education, heritage, and culture are like, the golden trio that they should be always together in order to ensure that the next generations are aware enough of their culture and heritage. And we will do that how? Through education. So there is no way to compare two fundamental concepts for me. Both should be mixed, or let's say delivered in a smooth way that could be transmitted to next generations. So schools have a really important part to play in both educating children and young people, and that's really important about extremism and recognizing when pupils start to become radicalized, and we should also make, or let's say launch, acts that will be happening in schools, like for an example every Saturday or Friday or whenever, just like to gather youth and tell them more about their culture and their heritage and how to work more on to prevent children being drawn into extremism, because they are really targeted these days. They are not like targeting you young people between 18 and 25 anymore. Now they just like attack schools, and they just like try to send messages and signals, so kids will be like receiving them, and as like, so I believe that activists and civil society and schools and government should be really standing against this, and by launching campaigns, mainly like digital campaigns, since kids right now are like using internet more than ever, and as I said, like workshops that are highlighting the importance of of culture, of, for example, Tunisian culture, and how it's really, really, really important to be aware of your culture and to be proud of your culture no matter what's going on. So this is like safeguarding children from all risk of harm, and it's also an important part of this school's work is protecting them from extremism. It's really, really, really important. So here, to be clear enough, when I say culture, it means like fine arts, literature, and contemporary culture, especially youth culture, let's say, as well as traditional culture. Like these are different forms, but to be on equal, like they should be like equal footing and interconnected. So this is the meaning of culture, if you ask me, because some people will be just like sitting and okay, she's talking about culture, but which culture she's talking about? And yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. And this understanding, I believe, culture is also put in relation to larger political and economics, historic and social condition and development. So just to be on the same road, as they say. So here, if we took a look deeper into the work that education is doing in the field of culture and heritage, we will find that culture and artistic projects are becoming a thing right now. Maybe mainly in Tunisia, for an example. I can see that Tunisians are becoming more proud of their culture at some point, and like organizations here are really trying to promote that culture is really important, and we have like a diverse background that made us who we are right now. So for an example, last night I was like looking for cultural exhibitions and everything, and I found out that there is a remarkable exhibition in Tunis was entitled "The Rise of a Nation." To work like they worked on it by the Rambourg Foundation, I guess, and it's displaced from the first time ever in Tunisia's Ottoman history and diversity. That's really important that and it's really impressive that they highlighted it. So it feels like the historical and cultural gap of a culturally diverse period, as I like when I read it last night, and it was really like important. So we should really know where we're standing in terms of culture and how we can, show our pride, and we can show it in many different forms. Also, another example, which is like youth culture, can be also like can create pride at some point, but also constitute a very efficient means of expressing for frustration and the non-satisfaction. So we should be like aware, and it should be like really, it's a delicate topic somehow, youth culture, because it's going to reach a wide audience, and their age is very, as we can say, sensitive. So we should really work on that. Also, like rapping graffiti artists are doing a great job in this field, mainly in youth culture, because here they are literally trying to send messages to the government itself that we are not satisfied with such and such things. Like, for an example, in employment, graffiti and like rap songs are here in Tunisia are really, really like addressing unemployment or like social issues that young people are dealing with, and the fact that they still play a crucial role in highlighting major issues. So it's really important also to take care of these cultures. So here we should know the countries that have been affected by violent extremism, and how do they counter and prevent further occurrences of violent extremism. And this was the fourth question of Africa Matters team that they sent it to me, how the countries that have been affected by violent extremism can prevent further further events that that are extremely violent. And I believe that there are many forms to, or many ways to prevent violent extremism happening again. Okay, so for an example, let's start from like something happened recently, which is in April 2019. So in April 2019, the terrorist group, aka ISIS, claimed responsibility for their first attack in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We all know that, I guess, and in which 8 people were killed in North Kivu province. May their souls rest in peace. So, along with these, with these attacks, we find also attacks in Mozambique, and which represents like disrupting development in Africa, struggles with violent extremism. So our accountant is really struggling with that. So here, like other countries took a wise step and they decided to launch events and to launch campaigns and initiatives that are addressing their like a specific category, which is youth, which are, for example, in Nigeria they launched, I guess, initiative called Youth for Peace. In this initiative, like young peace builders of this country work with hundreds of activists from West Africa and to counter violent extremism and in the region. So they're not just working on their country, they're working in an indirect way on the countries that have been affected by violent extremism, but also at the same time they're working on their country and addressing the young generation there to not be like easily recruited or to not be easily brainwashed by violent extremism organizations. So they're engaging youth in campaigns, mainly digital, mainly in schools as well. So establishing peace clubs in schools. And it's really important to know the meaning of peace and how it's going to make our lives better and easier. And it's going to conduct resilience, and conducting resilience building activities to like counter recruitment messaging. So now, for an example, they know, not completely, of course, they know it, because these kind of violent extremism organizations always come like with a new strategy to recruit people. So at least we know the recruitment messaging right now. What's the core element they are using to recruit young people? Mainly they're telling them, okay, you're not satisfied what's going on with the government, or you're not satisfied with such things. So here we are in our government, we are trying to make this not happen and everything. And also they play on the psychological part of the people they want to recruit. So it's really something huge, and we should not underestimate it. Also, like I have another example, which is in Uganda. Actually, the African Youth Initiative Network is really doing a great job by because in Uganda they had like quite like, let's say, damage from war and everything. So they are trying to do like post-war communities that engage the youth to become peace agents, and to provide space for people who were who are still in shock of violence, to tell their stories and to embrace their feelings and to share their experiences, to not be relived again. And they provide training and psychosocial support, and it's really important as well. So we should know that it's really important to do like instant reaction to these like actions made by violent extremism organizations. So here also I think that it's important for people in the West to be aware and to be invested in what's happening in some parts of Africa. And I highly believe in that because it's important to acknowledge that tendency towards violence extremism can attack absolutely any country, not just African countries or like European countries or something. It can affect any country just by doing few like if by doing few research or something, you can find that it's like in blink of an eye, these groups can be like damaging a country and they can be attacking groups of people and they just do it, you know. So I highly believe in that, and it should be really, really, you know, going viral to understand that violent extremism is way more than dangerous because it's taking our youth from us instead like of being a peace agent and, you know, creating space for youth to unleash their potential in education, in science, in economics or something. They're just like going with these organizations and they're like bombasting like their countries and other countries without any sense of like, you know, of acceptance, or they just like sending hateful messages, and it's super 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 dangerous and you should really take care of that. So I believe that I answered all the question bases sent from Africa Matters team, but also I really want to know your questions, or if you have like a feedback from what I said, because mainly I'm here to share my opinion and everything so we can learn from each other's, because I'm not an expert, and I highly repeat that I'm not an expert. I'm highly interested in the field of culture and heritage, so I'm doing like my best to learn and to do like research besides my academic stuff. So if anyone has like a feedback or a question, I will be more than happy to exchange my opinion or to just know his opinion. Also, like recently I discovered that people like in their cities, still waiting for your questions though, but I have like a quick, like, such a kind of announcement or something. But I recently discovered that UNESCO, for an example, is funding and giving like mentoring sessions for the organizations on a local level. Mainly, for example, if you're in Tunisia and you want to like raise awareness about in a heritage site or something in your city, or in your city basically. So you just can like apply with your organization, and for like being a volunteer with UNESCO, and they will like deliver with you mentoring sessions, and they absolutely, I think they can fund you as well to raise awareness about this heritage site and the cultural aspect of your city, and how it's like contributing to the culture of your country and everything. So absolutely anyone can apply if you're joining such organization and you want to raise awareness about your country. Also, I believe this works very well. So it's a really nice initiative, because it turns out that many organizations are like applying for this, and it's quite interesting. Also, I believe that there are many other forms, for an example, digital campaigns. Digital campaigns are really important, and they can go viral, trust me, just by one hashtag, which is well done, well launched. It can go viral and it can solve many problems. So yeah, I believe that youth can contribute in preventing violent extremism through digital way in a very efficient way as well. So, for an example, lately, um, when it happens with Iran, people generally like when Trump, for an example, sorry, but this is really like a good example for me. For example, when Trump tried to destroy heritage sites in Iran, so there were a hashtag launched on Twitter to say that he is doing a violent extremism act by destroying this, by destroying the Iranian heritage sites, and it was launched by Amnesty, I guess, International, and it went really viral. Like, dude, it's really viral. So I believe if you focus somehow on these details and see if another country as well is affected by violent extremism, like you can also be engaged in that. I highly believe. So, yeah. So if anyone, as I said, has a question or feedback, you can just like type it here, and I will do my best to answer the question, or just like accept the feedback and try to improve it for the next live. Also, I forgot to tell you a quick reminder that our live will be done in 6 minutes, because it's not supposed to be an hour. So it's like between 30 and 45 minutes. So yeah. So hurry up and asking if you're really interested.
Amazing.